I'm coming in hot before we dive into today's episode because I have a special announcement, something I've been dreaming of creating for the past 7 years. You know how it feels to learn all of this amazing personal growth stuff, but then somehow end up feeling worse because you're not actually doing it? Like your knowledge is actually making you feel guilty instead of empowered. I get it. That's exactly why I created Living Mind Love. Each month, we'll explore one focus area through the lens of neuroscience and spirituality. But here's the magic part. Instead of overwhelming you with changes, we'll break everything down into tiny micro shifts that your brain actually welcomes, so you'll understand the science behind why it works, connect with the spiritual wisdom, and most importantly, actually apply it to your life. The value in this program is worth at least 50 times what I'm going to be giving it to you for, because it is my mission to help as many people as possible transform their lives. You'll also get access to the first ever Mind Love community on School. So if you're ready to stop collecting wisdom and start actually living it, go to mindlove.com/waitlist to join the waitlist, and you'll get instant access to my 10-year vision meditation. So let's get into today's episode. Welcome to Mind Love, episode 171. Today's episode is your guide to financial miracles.
I believe that the reason women have so much difficulty with money, making it or managing it, has so little to do with money and has everything to do with their fear of or ambivalence about power. Because we don't understand what power means from a feminine perspective. A powerful woman is someone who knows who she is, who knows what she wants, and expresses that in the world unapologetically. What that means is power means becoming all of who we are meant to be and not watering ourselves down so we don't make waves or we're scared.
Turn up your frequency with Mind Love. Bite-sized brain hacks for seekers, dreamers, and doers. It's time to give your mind a little love with your host, Melissa Monti.
Hi, friends. First of all, if you haven't subscribed to the podcast yet, make sure to hit the subscribe button so you're always updated about new episodes. Plus, you want to know basically the best way to give back to your favorite podcasts? Actually go to the iTunes app and leave a 5-star review. Reviews are scientifically proven to make me love you more. That's just how it is. I love you when you leave me a review. You sit in my heart for days at a time. No, but seriously, they really help the growth of the show. They're probably the number one thing that you can do besides supporting my sponsors or joining the membership. So it's an easy, free way to give back to a podcast you love. And if you do leave me a review, send it to me at MindLoveMelissa on Instagram, and I'll send you a free meditation track. Today, I'm going to read a review from Mistress Envy 513. She says, "This podcast has been so very informative and beneficial to me on my self-love journey. I highly recommend this to everyone. Every show is helpful. Thank you so much for all the hard work you're doing, Melissa." Well, thank you so much for leaving this review. I swear these pregnancy hormones make these reviews feel even more special to me, so I love you. Have you ever considered that the biggest difference between the wealthy and the average household earner might just be their mindsets? I think about this even just in comparing my 20-year-old self to my 35-year-old self. Back then, it took me months to scrape together a few $100s for spring break. It felt like I was spending all of my money. And now I'm like, this $350 brain sensing meditation headband seems totally worth it. Purchased. Or my 20-year-old self would spend like $35 a week on food because I was living on Hot Pockets. And now I might drop $35 a week on matcha lattes alone. It's all relative, right? But how does our perception of money and its value affect our ability to get more of it? For example, if I have never had a total sum of $50,000 in my bank account, that amount might feel out of reach if I'm going into a meeting with investors and trying to talk them into giving it to me. Versus, if $50,000 is small change, I've raised it before, this is just a part of the process, my confidence will be different in asking for it. It will feel accessible, so I'll bring a different energy to that meeting. I noticed this too with courses and coaching. Before I had invested any money in myself, the idea of spending even a few $100s on a course seemed crazy. But then I dipped my toes in. I spent $600 on a course, then $750 another year, then eventually upwards of $22,000 on a program, which sounds crazy to some people, but it was highly worth it, by the way, and paid for itself in what I was able to create from the knowledge I received from it. So now the perceived value I have of those things has evolved. So when I'm creating something that I know has value, it's easier for me to confidently ask for that value in return. And this isn't just for entrepreneurs. This goes for asking for a higher starting salary or a raise or even additional benefits. So as we get used to having, spending, earning different sums of money, our mindsets around money change. And often, even our own self-worth changes. And when our self-worth changes, we feel more powerful. We know our worth, so we go out and get it. Now, I know life isn't all about the money, but up to a certain amount, money can really reduce stress. Money is still the number one thing that couples fight about. Money is the leading cause of stress. It changes our self-beliefs. It creates more opportunities. So while money shouldn't be what you value the most in life, it can be a really great support system for whatever it is you value. More vacations with your family. You can give more. You can invest in yourself. You can free up time outsourcing the parts of your life that you don't really like to do. You can treat yourself to life's little luxuries. Honestly, money is great. But if all you know about money is the struggle, that mindset shift can feel impossible. Well, today we're learning that problems with money are never really about the money. So where do our problems with money come from? And how do we start to develop a wealth mindset? That's what we're talking about today. Our guest is Barbara Huson. She's the leading authority on women, wealth, and power, and she's on a mission to revolutionize women's relationships with money. She says that most women's problems with money have little to do with money itself, but rather with their fear of or ambivalence toward power. She's going to teach us how to earn the money we deserve and build the wealth we desire. And if you're not a woman, don't worry. She specializes in women, but this knowledge really is applicable to anyone. So 3 key things we will learn are why so many women are under-earners, how men and women differ in the way they process financial information, and how to rewire our brains for financial success. But before we dive in, do you wish you could start each day with a little reminder of how powerful you really are? Just sign up for the Morning Mind Love for daily inspirational messages right to your inbox. I get messages from people every single day about how the Morning Mind Love is their favorite way to start their day, or that the message that came through is exactly what they needed to hear. It's kind of like your own personal inspiration oracle. Just visit mindlove.com and sign up right there on the homepage. Plus, you'll get some amazing free gifts when you do, like a free guided binaural affirmation meditation designed to rewire your brain to your highest self. And you'll get one of my favorite tools, a booklet of my personal power lists to help you gain clarity and live each day with intention. And it's all completely free. Just go to mindlove.com to sign up. Or if you're out and about, text the word morning to 33777. That's morning to 33777. And now let's welcome Barbara Huson to the show.
Thanks, Melissa. Thank you so much for inviting me. Appreciate it.
So how did you begin working with or helping women understand money better?
It's amazing that I'm doing this. This is not something I'd ever thought I'd be doing. But I grew up wealthy. My father was the R of H&R Block, and the only advice he ever gave me about money was don't worry, and don't worry. And under that was the unspoken assumption there'll always be a man to take care of you. Well, I loved that advice. I didn't understand money. I just wanted to spend it. And I married a man who was a lawyer. Then he was a stockbroker, and then he went to work for Block. So he was perfect. Well, what I found out very early in our marriage is that he was a compulsive gambler. And I found out every year for 15 years, many times a year, I found out that he was gambling my money, my inheritance away. And the insane part, Melissa, is I continued to let him manage the money for 15 years because that's how intimidated and terrified I was by anything financial. And finally, after our divorce, I decided money is not my thing. I do not want to deal with money. Well, I will tell you, I have this theory now that if you don't deal with your money will likely deal with you. And I got tax bills for way over $1 million. For back taxes my ex didn't pay, for illegal deals he got us in. My signature was on everything because I signed what he told me to sign. I did not have anywhere close to $1 million. I mean, not even close. And my ex had left the country, and my father wouldn't lend me the money. And that was the moment. That was the moment I knew I had to get smart. I had 3 daughters. I was not going to raise them on the street. And so I started reading books and going to classes and doing all the things you're supposed to do. And my eyes would glaze over and my brain would fog up. And I just figured I was terminally stupid. But I really believe when you have a commitment, like a down to your toes commitment, the universe revolves to help you reach your goal. And I was a journalist writing for the San Francisco Business Times. And I got hired for a research project to interview women who were smart with money. And those interviews changed my life. I not only got smart about money, but I suddenly had this whole new career. I wrote my first book, Prince Charming Isn't Coming, How Women Get Smart About Money. And I was suddenly traveling around the country and doing financial education for women. And it was amazing, but I couldn't make money. No matter how hard I worked. So I interviewed women who made lots of money, and I started making 6 figures before I even finished writing that next book, Secrets of Six-Figure Women. And then 7 books later, here I am talking to you, doing financial therapy with women.
Wow. I, first of all, relate to part of what you said. I ended up dating a gambling addict who nearly ruined my life, but I will also thank him for my rock bottom that sent me on a new path. But I'm curious because I know a lot of people assume there's a difference between the mindsets of the wealthy versus the mindsets of the average household income or those in poverty. But I do like the differentiation between, I mean, you grew up wealthy, but you were never necessarily the earner. So I'm curious, when you were interviewing these women who had made over 6 figures themselves, what was your biggest takeaway? Was there anything that surprised you?
So you mean from my second book, Secrets of Six-Figure Women?
Yes.
Yeah. There were a lot of things that surprised me. One of the big things that surprised me was how these women were making so much money. And they were very confident. And I expected them to be very confident. But as we got deeper into our interviews, I saw how every single one struggled with fear, struggled with self-doubt, and how many felt like a fraud and were terrified other people were going to find out. And I, at the time, a chronic under-earner, thought, holy moly, this is exactly how I feel. But the difference between them and me is they didn't let the fear stop them. They didn't let the self-doubt stop them. They did it anyway. That was probably a watershed moment that I really realized that the key to overcoming under-earning, the key to going to the next level in your life in anything, I don't care whether it's making more money or losing more weight, it's being willing to stretch, to do what you're scared to do what you don't think you can do, to try to do what feels impossible. You know, I ask under-earners, when's the last time you did something you thought you couldn't do? And they'd say, oh, no. And they'd scratch their head. And I ask high earners, when's the last? And they'd laugh. It's a way of life all the time. They had what I call a 6-figure slogan. If it's not illegal or immoral, I just say yes. So the key to that for me is, there are many keys, but the key to going to the next level is the willingness to be uncomfortable, the willingness to do what you fear.
So I know that for a lot of women that I know, or anybody really, they might not realize that they are an under-earner because they're used to making justifications for why they're earning that much. How do you know when you're an under-earner, and what do you do when you realize it?
Okay, so an under-earner is anyone who earns less than she needs or desires despite her efforts to do otherwise. If you ever hear yourself saying, I wish I made more money, but you are an under-earner. Because an under-earner has nothing to do with the amount you make. You can make 6 figures and still be an under-earner. And you can make far less and not be. I have three daughters. One's a stay-at-home mom, but one of my daughters is a farmer and one is a journalist. Neither one of them are high earners, but they're doing what they love because it feeds their soul, and they're making enough that meet their needs. Under-earning never feeds your soul. It is always a condition of deprivation, and not just of money, but of time, of choices, of joy, and most of all, of self-esteem.
When you realize that this might be something that you're struggling with, which I'm sure there's plenty of people out there, especially with everything that we're going through this year, how do you start to get out of it? Is the first step really working with the mindset, or are there actionable steps where you're also integrating your career? Before we go deep today, I want to give you a little gift, and I want to give it to you every single day. It's called the Morning Mind Love. I know how life can be. You're all fired up after an inspiring episode, and then a new day or a new challenge comes at you, and it's just hard to keep up that energy. Well, the Morning Mind Love is kind of like an oracle from your higher self to help you start each day with a positive focus. Plus, when you sign up, you get 2 free gifts, a 30-minute binaural meditation and 30 days of journaling prompts to help you remember who you truly are. And it's all completely free. So join over 9,000 people and go to mindlove.com to sign up, or text the word morning to 33777. Let's talk about legacy for a minute. We're all working so hard on personal growth and building better lives and creating something meaningful. But how do we protect everything we're building? Look, I know life insurance isn't the sexiest topic, but it might be one of the most loving things you can do for your family. We kept putting it off. It's funny how things never feel like a priority until you need it, which is the total wrong way to approach life insurance. But now that we have kids, there is no way I'm taking a chance that they won't be taken care of if something happens to me. So suddenly, this was our number one priority. And SelectQuote makes it surprisingly simple. They're one of America's leading insurance brokers with nearly 40 years of experience helping over 2 million customers. What makes them different is just how personal it is. Their licensed agents take the time to understand your specific situation so that they can find you the right coverage. We're talking 15 minutes to get exactly what you need. And I love that they actually reward you for all the self-work you're doing. So if you're in good health, you could get same-day coverage for up to $5 million. No medical exam needed. And it's way more affordable than you might think. Coverage up to $1 million could cost as little as $20 per month. So get the right life insurance for you for less at selectquote.com/mindlove. Go to selectquote.com/mindlove today to get started. That's selectquote.com/mindlove. When you realize that this might be something that you're struggling with, which I'm sure there's plenty of people out there, especially with everything that we're going through this year, how do you start to get out of it? Is the first step really working with the mindset, or are there actionable steps where you're also integrating your career?
So the first step is to tell the truth, about what's not working. Tell the truth about where you are unhappy, what is causing the problem. Because so many of us, we lie to ourselves. Just tell the truth without having to have a solution in place. Just what is not working. A problem ignored is a crisis invited, said somebody. I forget who. But the idea is to tell the truth about what's not working. What's not working in your personal life, what's not working in your work life. Tell the truth about what's not working. The second step is to declare an intention. What is it you want to do? What is it you want? An intention is different than a goal. A goal is a desire to achieve something. An intention is a commitment to get there no matter what. So tell the truth about what's not working. Declare an intention without having to have the how-tos in sight. What is your intention? And it could be, my intention is to make X amount of dollars. My intention is to change jobs. My intention is, without having to have the how-tos. And the third step, and this is the magic of it. The third step, if your intention is absolutely what you really want, not what you say you want, but what you really want. If you are really committed to it, 2 things will happen. These coincidences will show up. coincidences. Just like all of a sudden you'll open the paper and there's exactly advice you need. You'll sit down next to someone and they have exactly what you need. And the thing about the coincidences, they're opportunities in disguise. But the thing is, you won't want to do them. You'll go into resistance. And that is normal because those coincidences always lies outside your comfort zone. And the first step is to tell the truth about not working. The second is to declare an intention. And the third is to stretch, to go beyond what feels comfortable, but to what seems impossible by taking advantage of those coincidences, those synchronicities, those things, those opportunities that fall in your lap. And the fourth is you need to get lots of support, a lot of support from people, because especially women, we women are so relational oriented. We need support. And the fifth step is to appreciate and take care of money, because just because you earn a lot of money doesn't mean you keep it.
I have found that especially people that are under earners, a lot of it comes from self-doubt. They might doubt their own worth or what they can actually bring to the table when it comes to an earning situation. And because of that, that doubt tends to leak through to the steps that we're trying to move through along the way. So for example, setting that intention. I know so many people that I've worked with that are in limbo of like, do I want to create this? Should I be working with a dollar amount? Should I be working with finding my purpose? Whatever it is. What tips do you have on getting really clear about, or even just setting a good intention that'll motivate you to actually go through all these steps?
So let me just back up. I believe that the reason women have so much difficulty with money, making it or managing it, has so little to do with money and has everything to do with their fear of or ambivalence about power. Because we don't understand what power means from a feminine perspective. And I define power. A powerful woman is someone who knows who she is, who knows what she wants, and expresses that in the world unapologetically. What that means is power means becoming all of who we are meant to be. And not watering ourselves down so we don't make waves or we're scared. So the power question, the question you start with in taking back your power, because that's all we're talking about. Overcoming under-earning, creating wealth. It's all about taking your power back, knowing who you are, what you want, and expressing that in the world unapologetically. And the question is, what do I want? And that's the question that you need to answer. And that's the question that I believe is not just a practical process, but is also a spiritual practice. It's really tuning in to what brings you joy, looking at your past, what you've really loved. And I used to be a career counselor way back, way back. And people would come into my office and they were confused. Of course, they wouldn't come to me unless they were confused. In the first 20 minutes, they told me what they wanted. It took me at least 6 weeks to get there, because it's clearing away all the cobwebs, all the self-doubt, all the clearing it away so that they can see what is in their heart.
So a lot of what we're talking about is specific to women. And I know that it comes up often that women are under earners or women have more doubts when they're starting a business and what have you. Why is it that men and women differ so much in this way? Is it that they're processing financial information differently?
I believe it's a lot of how we were raised, and not just our age, but for generations, how men and women have been groomed. Men, from the beginning of time, have been generally raised to be the breadwinners. That was their job. And women, we've been raised to be, generally speaking, financially dependent. What I believe, the reason so many women are under earners and we aren't living the life we want, there's many reasons, but I believe it boils down to 3, is that we women give our experience, our knowledge, our skills away for free or bargain prices because we don't believe we are worth more. And this is part of the way we've been raised. It's ancestral upbringing, but we don't believe we're worth more. And as a result, we tend to be so notoriously codependent. We put everybody else's needs above ours. And I'm not just saying our family or our friends, but people we work with, total strangers. But every time we go to put ourselves first, which is a key to overcoming under-earning, we feel uncomfortable. We feel guilty. And that is right there what I was saying before. It's the willingness to be uncomfortable. Because part of self-doubt, overcoming self-doubt, I once heard this, I love this saying, I love it. This quote, confidence is a memory of success. So the more often we do something we don't think we can do, and even if we don't do it at first, when we fall down and we get back up and keep going, that is how you build success. Success comes from adversity. Confidence comes from adversity and overcoming our fear.
So when we are working towards really getting a hold of our mindset, kind of redefining our problems about money, realizing that they're not usually about the money, there's normally a different root cause. We're working towards this idea of wealth, but do we have misconceptions about that? What is the best way to really look at wealth in a way that's going to serve us actually achieving it?
So I'm going to back up here too. There is 3 levels of financial development. There is survival, there's stability, and there's affluence. Survival is not enough, stability is just enough, and affluence is more than enough. And so wealth, so you're going to talk about wealth. So wealth, I define wealth as not an amount. It is not an amount. Because I know people who have millions, but they do not feel financially secure. They do not feel powerful. They do not trust themselves, and they are not protecting themselves financially. I know women who have far less and feel bountiful, because it's a matter of wealth is when you know you are in charge of your money and not your money is in charge of you. Understand how to manage money. So wealth is having more than enough. And that differs for everybody. Did I answer your question?
You did. And what comes up for me is I know a lot of women or people in general, where they are striving for wealth, but at the same time, they tend to have like a hole in their pocket, myself included. I tend to overspend. When the less money I have, it's like the more money I want to spend. It's like my way of trying to feel those wealth feelings when I'm not there. And often when I'm doing really well financially, I'm so much better at saving and investing. And when we're going through that, then it's like you feel like you don't have enough because you're creating these habits of basically building a life outside of your means, no matter what level that you're in, if that makes sense.
So what you're saying is that you have money coming in, but you love to spend it. So you don't create the wealth you desire. Would you like to be wealthy?
I wouldn't just like it. I would love it. And I do think I'm on my way, though.
Really? Because if you really wanted to be wealthy, you would be. Because wealth doesn't come from what you earn. Wealth comes from what you do with what you earn. And wealth, there's only 3 steps to create wealth. Spend less, save more, invest wisely. And when you're not doing one of that, it's because a part of you doesn't want wealth. I know this from my life all the time. If I'm not where I'm wanted to be, it's because there's an internal conflict in me. Part of me wants it and part of me doesn't. Part of me wants it and part of it doesn't believe it's possible. And so it's important to look at how you have been raised and what you believe is possible with wealth.
So say someone's examining their behaviors and they're starting to realize that there must be some part of themselves that doesn't want to be wealthy. How do they get clear on that part of themselves so that they can start to mend it? Does it always come back to the messages that we were told as children? For example, what if somebody's parents were really good with money and they took on the opposite behaviors? So I'm just wondering what the steps are to really get clear on that. I don't know why it took me so long to invest in good bedding. I resisted it for years, but something flipped in me about 3 years ago. And now I'm basically a pillow connoisseur. I've tried them all, and I get weirdly excited about good bedding. Because here's the thing, we spend 1/3 of our lives in bed, and the quality of that time affects literally everything else, which is why I'm so excited to tell you about my latest obsession, Lagoon Sleep Pillows. What sets them apart is their matching system. You take a quick 2-minute quiz about your sleep style and your preferences, and then they match you with your perfect pillow. I was matched with their Otter pillow, and I am so impressed. Lately, I've just needed more support, and this seems to cradle me in all the right places. I'm also low-key obsessed with their travel pillow, which I use for way more than just travel. I actually hug it, use it as leg support, and of course, take it on trips with me. Well, the secret is in their adjustable fill. You can add or remove it to get that perfect alignment for your spine. A study even found that the right supportive pillow can improve sleep quality by 63%. And Lagoon lets you try their matched pillow for 100 nights risk-free. Free returns, no questions asked. Falling asleep has never been easier. I toss and turn less and just wake up feeling refreshed every morning. Go to lagoonsleep.com and take their awesome 2-minute sleep quiz to find your match. Use the code MIND for 15% off your first purchase.
'Tis the season for shopping, and with Rakuten, it's also the season for stacking up the savings. Use Rakuten to stack cashback at thousands of stores on top of holiday sales. With Rakuten, you can save money on gifts for everyone on your list, from toys for the little one to kitchen gear for the hostess with the mostess, to electronics for yourself. Did I mention that Rakuten is super easy to use? Just start your shopping at Rakuten.com or in the Rakuten app. Do your shopping like you normally would, and you'll get the cash back by PayPal or check. It's truly a no-brainer. Join for free at Rakuten.com or download the Rakuten app. That's RAKUTEN. Rakuten.com.
How do they get clear on that part of themselves so that they can start to mend it?
Yeah, I do. So I have a new book coming out. And about 6 years ago, I've been working with money mindset. I've been working with psychology, spirituality, to do with personal finance and weaving those together. And I discovered an article on neuroscience. And that article, it's like something in my brain, a light went off that said, oh my God, this has been missing. This is the missing piece. So what happens is our behavior, let's just say the way we are with money, spending too much, not saving enough. It is all our behavior with money is controlled by our brain. Our brain controls everything. Our brain controls all our behavior with everything. It controls our inhaling, exhaling, our spending, and our saving. It controls everything. But our brain is controlled by our mind. And our brain is a physical organ in our body that runs on electrical chemical signals. But our mind is not an organ. It is a non-physical entity that is a source of our thoughts and our feelings. And so whatever our behavior is, it has come from our thoughts and our feelings, which have been there with us since the beginning of time. So let's say, for example, if I grew up hearing not enough, there's just never enough. There's never enough. And that becomes a part of my thinking, and that becomes imprinted in my brain. And so your brain has what's called confirmation bias. Your brain will only make choices that confirm its belief. So you may say, I want to be wealthy, but if your brain says, no, you need to spend because there's never enough. So the idea is to really focus on training your mind to rewire your brain for that wealth and well-being.
Yeah, it definitely does. But how do you start to rewire your brain for financial success?
Okay, I will tell you exactly how you do it. Rewiring your brain is very simple and excruciatingly difficult.
Fun.
Because, what?
That sounds fun.
It is fun. It really is fun. I will give you 3 simple steps to rewire, but let me just say a little about how excruciatingly difficult it is. But if you do these 3 steps, it's repetition that rewires the brain. Repetition rewires the brain. So if you keep doing these 3 steps, you will weaken old neural pathways that have been running your show and start building new neural pathways that create a new reality. So our brains developed over millennium, over millions of years with one purpose. Our brain, it's not to think, it's not to reason. That's not the purpose. Our brains evolved. The brain is here to keep us safe and make sure we survive. So anything that is at all remotely scary, our thinking brain will shut down and our fight, flight, and freeze will be activated. Okay, so that said, there are 3 steps to train your mind to rewire your brain. And the 3 steps are, I will say them to you, I will tell you a little bit about what they are, and then I can give you an example. So the 3 steps are recognize, reframe, and respond differently. Recognize. That means you start observing your thoughts, particularly your negative thoughts. Just start observing. And since we're talking about money here, just start observing your negative thoughts about money, or your negative thoughts, or your judgmental thoughts, or your critical thoughts. Just observe, because nothing can be changed until you are aware of it. So notice, but then I want you to recognize it in a certain way. You observe these negative thoughts, not from judgment, but with curiosity. Oh, isn't that interesting? I'm having a thought about there's never enough. And then to what you just did is when you say, I am having a thought, you separate your thought. Not I'm not enough, or there's never enough, but I'm having a thought about. That separates you. And if you can see that that thought has been wired in your brain over your lifetime, it came from your past, it is not the truth. So observe with curiosity, not judgment, with curiosity. Oh, isn't that interesting? I am having a thought about. And the second step is to reframe, to look at how you can see it differently. Oh, how can I see this differently? There must be another way to see this. And for example, there was one client I was working with who thought there's never enough. That she was raised, she can't understand. She was an artist, but she lived in Italy, but she made a lot of money. She made a lot of money with her art. She was an extraordinary artist, but there was never enough. And she thought, how can I see this different? And she thought, there will always be enough. There's different ways to reframe this, but she just reframed, there will always be enough, because the words we use that come out our mouth or go through our head will create our reality. That's what they're like, little shovels that either dig the old neural pathways deeper or start creating new ones. So recognize those negative thoughts with curiosity, reframe it, even if it's, oh, this is an opportunity to reframe, to look at it differently, and then respond differently. Do what you don't want to do, what doesn't feel normal, what doesn't feel comfortable. Respond differently. And the more you respond differently, the quicker you will start creating new neural pathways and weakening the old ones.
I love that. I feel like just going through those steps is the same process I've used in so much of my healing from my past experiences. But as you were talking about this idea of wealth feeling like you have enough, it's funny because I've made huge strides in my financial situation in the last few years, but I'm recognizing what my patterns were for the longest time. And like I said, for a long time, and something I still have to work with now, is my wanting to overspend. And part of that was because it's not like I felt like there was never enough. I felt like I always had enough. But if like a financial planner was coming to look at my situation, they're like, okay, you've spent several $100s on Kickstarter projects this month, but you have nothing in savings. So like, it was like I was
You know something?
What?
As my financial coach said to me long ago, she said, you can never get enough of what you don't really need. So you're spending on the Kickstarter, or I was spending on face creams, and that's not what I needed. What I needed, there was like a hole in my soul that needed something that those face creams weren't going to fill. There's something you're spending on that fills you up, but it's not what you need.
So say you identify that there's a void there and you feel like you're filling it with these material things. And I have a lot of friends who do the same thing. So I feel like it's important to touch on.
Oh, yes.
How do you start to fill that void? Like, how do you start to separate those patterns that you've created with something that's new and healthier so that you can start to build wealth and have savings and have investments and all of that?
That's a good question. And that's where the inner work comes in. That's when you have to look at, what is it that you feel is lacking in you? What is it you crave? What is it you really need? And Melissa, it is never anything out there. Nothing out there will make you happy. Nothing out there will make you feel rich. Nothing out there will make you feel secure. Nothing. It has to come from within you.
Another thing that comes up often is I know that there's a lot of, especially entrepreneurs, that say, the best investment that you can make is investing in yourself. And I find that that is true on many levels, but I've also found that I've spoken to a lot of people that end up almost using that as another way to validate that they aren't worthy. Like they always need another course and another certification and another thing, and it becomes just another way to overspend. How do you know when is the right time to invest in yourself and when you're using it as another coping mechanism or distraction?
If your life's not working the way you want it to work, then you have to look at what you're doing. And there's something I call SSA, serial seminar addiction. It's like women especially. I only work with women. I don't work with men. So for the men, but I'm more familiar with working with women. When we don't believe we have enough, or we don't want to do the tough stuff that it takes to be a success, we just keep going to seminars. And it gives us the illusion, but not the safety of success.
Oh, I had to sit with that one for a minute because I love a good conference or seminar. But it is true. It reminds me of,
honey.
I used to do the same thing with books, and I would just keep reading the next book. And I was like, okay, well now I'll get one more. And it's like a fake productivity because I feel like I'm moving towards something, but I'm not doing any of the work that the books are telling me to do. I'm not actually applying what I've just learned and creating something. So that makes so much sense for me.
I remember when I was going through my money crisis, I was going to every seminar you could think of. Not just money, but personal growth workshops. I had SSA to the max. I was an addict and I couldn't stop. And I went to one workshop and we did a meditation. And in this meditation, I wanted to know why I wasn't achieving success. Even though I was doing all the seminars and I was reading all these books, it felt like I was doing something. It gives you the illusion you're doing something. And I remember I had this vision of a farmer in the field planting the fields and getting their fingernails dirty. Well, my nicely polished fingernails would never get dirty. But the message for me is I needed to get my fingernails dirty. I needed to get in there and do the work that wasn't always seemed fun. And that's what I needed to do. And that's what I did. So usually the thing we need to do is the thing we're most scared to do. So you look at, Melissa, or anyone listening, if your life isn't exactly where you want it to be, you're not making the money, look at, I'll give you the example. I have 3 daughters. 3 daughters, they're in their 30s and 40s now. Whenever they feel stuck, whenever they feel unhappy, whenever they feel confused, they always call me and they always say what I should do. And they know exactly what I'm going to tell them. And I always say, what are you most scared to do? And they'll tell me, and I'll say, then that's exactly what you need to do. Because it's always the thing you fear that will lead you to success. It's like the fear is the indicator of where you should go. One of my favorite quotes is by Joseph Campbell, and it says, the cave you fear to enter is where your treasure lies. So whatever you're scared to do, that may be stopping those seminars. That may be, or some of them, that may be raising your prices. That may be asking for a raise. That may be just whatever. Whatever you're scared to do, that is the path to success.
That's that idea you mentioned before about stretching beyond what your comfort zone is. And the thing you mentioned after that was the thing that might be helpful to actually push through that fear is to get lots of support. And I wanted to go deeper into that. How do you recommend that people get support? Is it just asking the people around them, like, hey, support me in this? Because what I found, especially if you haven't taken that scary path, a lot of the times the people around you are the people that are still stuck in the mindset that you're trying to overcome. So what tips do you have for getting that support?
So this is really important because under-earners tend to surround themselves with negatives, people, pessimists, naysayers, not because they're bad people, but they're scared. So it's really important to find people who are playing at the level you want to play at. And there's several ways to do this. It's the same thing. If you create an intention and you start looking for those people, But for me, I know about 10 years ago, my girlfriend, I had 3 girlfriends. We were all entrepreneurs, and we put together a group. We called it the Spotters Group. Spotters because, in a gym, how the guys are always asking another guy to spot them when they want to go lift heavier weights. In a gym, you never see a woman. I have never, ever seen a woman ask a perfect stranger to spot them. And that's because we don't lift heavier weights. But in the world of work, and to overcome under-earning, to really reach greatness, we have to lift heavier weights. And it's important to surround yourself with people who are also on that path. And so we put together, there's just 4 of us, but we've been meeting for almost 10 years now. I know I created the Wealth Connection, an online community of women where we talk openly and honestly about money, not just from a practical, but from a spiritual and a psychological. You look around, there are so many groups, and even if you just know a few people who are ahead of you in the game, even if you just use them as role models and watch them, even if you just say, can I pick your brain? Can I ask you a few questions? There are all kinds of ways to get support. And when you intend to have support, it'll come to you if you look out for it and watch it and go after it.
That's so true. I created what I call my circle of influence when I was first launching my podcast because I didn't know anybody that was currently doing this or successful in this. So first I scouted my Facebook friends for anyone that was doing something in the entrepreneurial path, and I clicked the little button to see them first. And then I went and followed a bunch of women that were doing the thing that were basically a few steps ahead of me in my current goals. And then found more people that were all the way, had already reached my goals, like were millionaires doing very, very well. So that I got to see people from all different tiers of what I was working towards. And it basically started to change my mindset of what I believed to be possible. Because every day when I logged onto social media, instead of seeing somebody's new baby pictures, I would see somebody posting about their new podcast episode or the new course they were launching. And I tell you, that circle of influence changed the way I viewed what I was doing. And it made each step feel so much more tangible than it had been before I had consciously surrounded myself with those people.
Oh, Melissa, that was brilliant. That was so good. What a perfect example. That we need to get support. As one woman I interviewed, my Secrets of Six-Figure Women, she said to me, success is a social activity. We cannot do it alone.
So I love to leave people with some action items. And what do you think are 3 things that somebody can do starting now to really get smart about their money, especially somebody who might not have time to launch a new business or start anything else?
I'll tell you, these are the 3 steps I did. And I still do them to this day, 40 years later. If you do, it's so much of getting smarter about money it's small steps consistently taken. And you do these 3 steps for, 2-3 months, you will be amazed at the difference. 3 steps. Every day, read something about money, even if it's just for 1 minute, even if you're just perusing the headlines of the business section of the paper. Even if you're standing in line at the supermarket, you take Money magazine instead of People and leaf through it. Even if before you go to bed, you take a finance book and you read 1 paragraph. So much of getting smarter is just familiarizing ourselves with the jargon and the current trends. It's amazing. I call it the osmosis school of learning. You just read something every day for a minute or 2. Every week, you have a conversation about money, preferably with someone that knows more than you, because we, at least women, are not apt to talk about money. Or we'll moan and groan about it and complain about it. But when's the last time you found a girlfriend or a colleague or a family member and said, how did you get smart? What did you do? What are some of the mistakes you made? What's the best advice you were given? What advice do you have for me? Just talk about money. That's how I did it. I was interviewing those women for Prince Charming Isn't Coming, and it was so powerful that I just kept doing it. After I finished the book, I just kept anybody who was smart about money, I just picked their brain, and people were so open about talking. So every day read something about money. Every week have a conversation about money. And then every month save. Automatically have money transferred from your payroll check or your checking account to a savings account. And it doesn't need to be a lot. Have $5, $10. Automatically, you fill out a form online, they automatically take the money out, put it in a savings account, and you'll be amazed with compounded interest how quickly that grows. So every day read, every week talk, every month save. You will be amazed how different you will feel.
Well, thank you so much for all of your wisdom about money. I know this is something I'm still actively working on. And like I said, I've made huge strides in the past few years, but I also know that there's still a lot of work to be done. So I'm excited to check out the community that you mentioned. And for listeners that are interested in learning more about you, working with you, and joining your community, and of course about your multiple books, where's the best place to connect with you online?
It's my website. It's Barbara Huson, Huson.com. Barbara-Huson.com. There's just a ton of information there.
All of the links from this episode will be at mindlove.com/171. Your challenge today is to define success. What does success really mean for you? The reason I'm having you do this first instead of digging into your finances is because often when we have negative feelings around money and we go into the universe asking for a specific sum of money, because we have negative feelings about that, we are subconsciously resisting the money at the same time. When you start to define what's really important in your life, what success looks like for you, and then you start to understand how much money it's going to take to achieve those things. First of all, sometimes it might be less than you think. Sometimes it's more. But now you've anchored the money into one of your values that you already feel positive, strong feelings about. With anything that we're trying to manifest in our life, the more clarity we can get and positive feelings we bring into that clarity, the more likely it is to occur for us because we stop subconsciously resisting our own goals. So it becomes really important to get clear on where we're holding on to the negative feelings and how we can replace those with something more positive. So when you're thinking, okay, I'm going to bring in $15,000 in the next 6 months, maybe that just feels like a long shot for you. But when you start to think, this year is going to be the year that I take my family on that vacation, or that we replace our car that might be dangerous to drive right now, whatever it happens to be, suddenly it becomes this need instead of just this lofty goal or desire. So get clear on that. And the more that you do that, it leads to more introspection of beginning to consciously create a life that you really desire. Please share this episode if you loved it. Take a screenshot, tag me at MindLoveMelissa and MindLovePodcast, or just share it directly with a friend who you think might need it. That's really helpful too. This podcast grows mostly through word of mouth, so I'm so grateful for all of you who do continuously share the show, and especially for those of you who have taken the time to write a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Not only does that help the growth of the show, but honestly, it feeds my soul so much. So as always, thanks for giving your mind a little love today, and I'll see you next week.
Thanks for tuning into Your Higher Frequency with Mind Love. Head to mindlove.com for a free gift to keep your vibes up until next week.